But
Yeah.
you know, I'm probably getting lung cancer right now because oh fuck, I just finally moved into this apartment last night, and I just found out that actually no, I think every single one of my neighbors is a convicted felon for most of them for violent crimes.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah. And I now know that if I ever get locked out, they know how to kick my door in. But if they decide they want to attack me or steal me, they can also kick my door in. But also, they all smoke cheap cigarillos in the common area.
Are they actually smoking? Are they actually cigarillos? Or are they just using cigarillos?
I can smell the difference. Sometimes they're smoking blunts, which isn't that bad. But sometimes they just leave the cigarillo whole and just smoke the tobacco and gasoline and turpentine and whatever the fuck else is in there. And you know, I woke up this morning with a splitting headache, and I used to smoke. You know, so I'm probably going to get cancer from this. Is it my fault, Ben? Ben the moralist? Am I going to die? Because
why don't you go into
You're Catholic. Everything is your fault.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, according to the gods, clearly everything is my fault.
Looks like our next guest is
So
here.
we do have a guest. I spoke about this book last week. Roger the Rat. A lot of legwork went into doing this. It's hard to hang on. Let me maximize my window here. So you see, there's a lot of composition in the photographs. The idea is that the rat man does not know truly whether he is rat or human, and these are like pictures in throughout his life, and he collects mannequins. I guess is that an apt description, Roger?
Well, yeah, I've been doing photos for nearly 53 years now, so it's been a long process. I guess in the last few years, I could say I could create a museum for my collections. But I started working on Roger the Rat. Technical. Hello. Oh yeah.
You're still here. I'm just showing them your awards.
Okay. I started working on Roger the Rat about 5-6 years ago when I found the rat mask, and it was a very interesting mask because when somebody put the mask on their head, you could see this rat smiling, and you weren't quite clear whether he's laughing or making fun of you or saying something about society itself. And so it was quite a surprise when this rat mask went on people's head, and it was the beginning of the project, and I continued working on it for 5 years. And I made these images that I guess get deep inside people's head. They sort of upset their status quo in terms of how they would view what is right and wrong, and what is moral, what is immoral, what you really would want to do and what you can't do.
Have you heard the term uncanny valley?
Uncanny
valley. That, I believe that's the sensation that you're describing, where people aren't sure what to make of a particular image involving mannequins or masks or dolls or such. It's a term basically that when they design robots, it has to pass through. It has to pass away from the concept of the uncanny valley and more closely resemble a human, because if it doesn't, it will make people uneasy. And I think that's maybe
it's actually easier to keep it on the other side of the uncanny valley and make it look less human, which is why robots always look like C-3PO, because if C-3PO looked vaguely human-like, everyone would throw up every time they saw the movie.
Like Sophie the robot. Do y'all know that?
Right.
No, who's that?
It's a maybe Jeremy can pull up a picture of her, but she looks frightening.
What is
it? You can get away
Sophie
with a lot more.
You can get. I'm sorry. What, Roger?
You can get away with a lot more if somebody puts a mask on. You see, because if I didn't use a mask here,
I mean,
and we used a human being, a woman or a man or some other a person, then I would, in photography, well, they would first say if the picture is contrived, and they might say it might even be exploitive if it was in a so-called real environment. So by putting a mask on, you can do certain things in photography and make people believe in the authenticity of the image and accept it more than if it was a person without a mask. It's quite an interesting thing to understand in photography.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
What, so this person can do anything he wants, you see, and you'll accept it. But if it went into the real, so-called real world, then it would create a lot of questions, and I might be accused of this or that, or you might say, well, this is not the right thing to photograph, but now I can do anything, and now your subconscious mind accepts it.
Yeah, yeah. You slightly fictionalize it.
That's my job, because I think when I see what's going on in America, because I'm living in South Africa now, when I see what's going on in America, I think the whole art business and journalistic business is just a disaster.
It's been that way for
people's sense of what's right and wrong is. I mean, I think the whole society, people who see themselves as artists and whatever, a lot of these people, from what I can see from far off, are just pawns of Facebook and Instagram and all these other media machines. So they think they're operating independently, but they're just a pawn of the media machine, and they're just following along with their commercial interests, and they think they're not.
Well, Facebook and Twitter and whatnot presents, I mean, not only have they subsumed all other means of publicity, but they present a very easy road to fast publicity if you're willing to throw all your morals to the wind and your artistic integrity and your personal integrity and everything else. Is this person going to run me over? Jesus Christ. Fucking drunk drivers around here. If you're willing to throw away basically your entire soul, you can be famous practically overnight on Instagram or Twitter or whatever, and then you can be a model or a writer or an actor or whatever. So,
yeah, but there's a big difference between an average person who lives an average life and has average ideals than somebody who's maybe more intellectually inclined, more artistically inclined, and supposedly stands for other values. So,
well, that's true, but
there is a big difference in most societies, and it's quite interesting. Again, from far away, just seeing what's happened. I come from another generation. I mean, I was at Woodstock at one time, and I was at Berkeley as a young man, and I see the whole thing really just as reaching a state of chaotic ideals, or a state where what's right and wrong is left to I don't know, a confused value system. And anyway, let's go back to the Roger the Rat, because
yes,
in a way, Roger the Rat represents the id he represents the id, he represents human absurdity. And I think this is something to go back to, is a more philosophical view of who this rat is, what this rat is about, what he represents, what he stands for, and why he might leave an impression in your deeper part of your subconscious mind. And so I think this is a more interesting approach than talking about the muck that pervades society at this point in time.
Do you mean the Roger the Rat on the website, or do you want me to use the book as representation?
No, well, whatever you can do, whatever works, because it's hard for me, when people, look at a small computer screen, it's hard sometimes to see the pictures, but feel free to show the pictures or discuss whatever works for you. It's fine for me.
Okay. And thank you again for coming on. And maybe you can, go over what it took to put these together, because clearly, 5 years, were you ever frustrated enough that you questioned what you were doing, or did you always believe in it firmly?
No, I've been doing pictures a long time. It's like you say, you get frustrated when you get up in the morning and brush your teeth. You don't get frustrated. You just do what you have to do. And so it's not a matter of getting pushed by the wayside and saying, oh, like, I'm quitting because I didn't get a picture today. It's a disciplined approach. You have to be at it all the time. And again, part of the system we live in photography is photography becomes such an easy media, such an easy media that anybody thinks they can pick up a phone or whatever they do and take a good picture. But it's a very complex media, and it's very difficult to take strong photographs. And so it takes time. It's just not something that you can expect to do a book of, say, 60 pictures in 60 days. You got to expect years. And so for most of my projects, I usually give them 5 years. 5 years is a reasonable time to do a decent project or make a book.
Now hear this. Roger the Rat is feeding or shining a light on normal rats. So, but in the forward, he says he's not sure if he's rat or human. So I don't know what am I to take. What are we to take away from that? Maybe he thinks.
Well, it's quite an interesting point that you're making. Are you sure you're a human being? What do you mean by a human being? Because a human being, if we look at evolution, we would say, well, we're part of a process that's gone on for billions of years. So we also have something to do with this virus that's running around the air here right now. We're a bit of a virus too, and we're a bit of a bacteria, and we're a bit of a dog, and we're a bit of a monkey. So, what do you mean by being a human being? Being a human being is also being part of everything else, which is being part of animal and part virus and by being part of bacteria. So there's nothing wrong with that idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that that's repressed in some sort of phony moralistic system. And so
maybe is it possible he believes that he is the king rat because of his size and how he dwarfs, these real rats that you use? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're right a bit that he's he's a big, strong looking rat. So he does have he can bully the other rats around and control them. And I guess if you see a rat, you're a lot bigger than a rat, and as rats tend to would be quite scared of you, I guess. So, I mean, in the animal world, the bigger and the stronger tend to rule. So I would guess that the other rats would be a little bit shy of him.
No, so what's going here is
so he's not. So what the rat did, and you can see the movie is coming out probably in the next couple of months. So I did a 25-minute movie on this rat, and so what the rat did during the nighttime, he found a mannequin graveyard, and he would go to this mannequin graveyard and steal the mannequins and bring them to his hovel, which was underneath the ground. You could say he was living in a place below the subways in New York City. And then he would, but it's South Africa, it's not New York City, but he would then take these mannequins and bring them to his house and create a world, a life around these mannequins, and he would treat them as if they were alive. And at some point in time in the movie, and perhaps in some of these photographs, he got quite sick of these mannequins and began to bully them around and take advantage of them in all sorts of aggressive ways. And in other ways, and early in the movie, he's more loving and more caring towards these mannequins, but he becomes frustrated by them.
Okay, that sounds a lot like what we do to each other, doesn't it? Okay, here's where he clearly is falling out of love with the mannequins. What is he? He's sawing the head off.
He's sawing their head off. He's sawing their head off.
And it looks like he has different kinds of saws for different kinds of necks, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he builds the mannequins. He dresses the mannequins. He sits down and eats with them in the movie. You see a little bit of this in the book, but in the movie, and then at some point in time, he loses patience. And he just starts to destroy his world.
Does the movie have stop motion animation as part of it?
No, there's no animation. The rat, he doesn't talk. He can't talk, but he goes from room the room and becomes crazed after a while. And so there's no animation. It's real so-called real footage or
Or
documentary.
it's all in camera, and it's not okay. So the mannequins don't move around on their own, or if they do, it's puppetry.
No, they don't. The mannequins don't move. Don't
Okay.
move.
This here, did he paint that? I mean, or did you? Is that looks like Superman trying to console either a child or some figure? Is what I'm identifying there.
Superman with a big rat on him. You see the rat on Superman. So Superman will be a toy
Okay,
in
yes,
the
I
mannequin.
do.
Yeah. So it's Superman in the rat's hovel,
Right
and
here.
and it might be a plastic Superman, and there are a lot of rats living with Roger the rat. So I guess one of the rats got on top of Superman.
Mhm. Was this cathartic for you?
Well,
After 5 years?
every time you take a picture, it's somewhat cathartic. If you take a good picture, you find something about yourself, and it reveals something. So it's a mini cathartic. It's mini cathartic, and then you have that experience, but then you're back to square one. Well, you're not back to square one. You learn something, but then the mountain's still in front of you.
This one down here, is that
Yeah.
one
Well, there he is.
is that one ball gagged or
That's a sort of some sort of dead thing, a dead mannequin laying on the ground there. So he's taking advantage of the angel.
yeah.
He's taking advantage of the angel. See, he's really not a nice guy, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting that.
He's not somebody that would win some sort of peace prize, by the way.
Right.
But there are not too many people around who would win the peace prize, even though they think they're going to win it.
Okay, so he's built these two. Are they supposed to resemble mother and father, or his ideal?
No, he's somehow or another taken the big lion's girlfriend away.
So he's a
But
pimp.
I guess you could interpret it in any way. It could be the big lion's daughter. It could be the big lion's friend. It could be the big lion's girlfriend. He's just, he's interceded between the two. He's come in between. He's come in between.
And this right here, are those stick figures or?
Those are stuffed little animals, stuffed animals. Yeah. So I've basically created this world, and the things you see on the wall, most of the things I created. It's part of my aesthetic. My aesthetic. A lot of people refer to my aesthetic as so-called Ballenesque. I have a particular aesthetic in photography that people recognize.
And the reason is, well, I mean, the same way that several films that deal with have a surreal quality are referred to as Lynchian, like David Lynch. And you've been around at least as long as David Lynch, or possibly longer, photographing and winning award after award, correct?
I mean, as I said, it's a layer by layer process. When I was younger, the pictures were more documentary, less complex, and as you get older and older, hopefully you can take more complexity and make greater simplicity out of it. So that's been the process, and you develop your own style, your own way of seeing that. Hopefully has a message that reveals something to some people's deeper level of thought or their deeper minds. There's no point in photography, and one of the problems we have in photography is most images that you see, people are aware of it already. It doesn't teach anybody very much, because what they see is what they know. You see, what they see is what they know, and you got to teach people what they don't know, or what they don't want to know. More like what they don't want to know. That's the key of the whole process. Sorry, right. Go ahead.
Well, this is a very unsettling image here, and I think it's because of the eyes. But this is a photographic technique that I have heard before, where you take a photograph, and you take a smaller version of the photograph and a bigger version of the photograph, and they're both in the same frame together. It's like a, I don't know, macro quality, or a like overdubbing in music. It's like overdubbing in photography, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I know it. There was a picture of the two together, and then I made the photograph of the two together, and then put it on the wall, and then created this photograph of the Roger the Rat giving his girlfriend some grapes, and then out of the grapes come a real rat. So she's a bit surprised. It's a real rat coming out of the gift. So I think she's a bit surprised.
Those eyes are very unsettling, and here he is getting his dance on. And
this comes from the film. You see, this is shot during the making of the film. So he's dancing with one of the mannequins now.
So is the film going to be called Roger the Rat as well?
Yeah, the film's Roger the Rat. Film's Roger the Rat.
How is it that I'm going to be able to see it?
Well, it's on. I think we might be able to show the trailer tonight. I'm not sure. I'd
be glad to. Do you want me to go right to that?
Yeah, you might as well. Then it gives people a wider understanding of the project. So maybe show. It's just a minute or so, the trailer.
And then when it's released, how am I going to be able to get it and watch it?
It'll be on Vimeo or YouTube. Vimeo or YouTube. Yeah.
All right, very good.
It's always a hard decision when they release these films.
Roger the Rat.
Huh?
Let's see if
when you search. When you search Roger the Rat on YouTube, it's the second.
But it's not on there yet. Yeah.
Where is the trailer for Roger the
Rat? It's on Vimeo. It's on Vimeo.
Okay, gotcha.
Hopefully you can find it. I sent you the link, but I don't know.
Got you covered. All right.
Is it working?
Yep. About to pull it up right now. Very interesting to see what this is going to look like in live action.
I'm still wondering.
Yes?
So if a half rat gives grapes to his girlfriend, you get a real rat.
Yeah, if you're right.
The rat was hiding in the bushel of grapes.
There's a lot of rats. He's living with a lot of rats. You see, there's rats everywhere in this hole that he's living in.
Much like in life.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, when I live in a shitty apartment full of vermin, I start to wonder if I'm vermin too.
That's very.
I wonder what and the other question is, what do the rats think? What do the rats think?
The rats just assume I'm another rat, actually.
We never know. You see, this is the problem. It's not a problem, but we don't know it's hard to. We don't know what any animal thinks. We don't know.
Oh, I thought you meant my neighbors.
Oh, the neighbors. Oh, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Let's see what we got going on here.
Let's see if anything works. Can you see? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
That looks pretty awesome.
Yeah. So is that a feature-length film, or did you say it was like
it's 25-minute film.
20. Okay, that's what I thought you said. 25 minutes. Okay, cool. And so, are you playing Roger in this?
No. I have a very good actor here who specializes in making films where in mimicry when no words are involved. It's just all movement. So he did a great job.
Yeah.
So no, I couldn't do his job. It's impossible.
Really cool.
Wow. So yeah, so he's got like a maybe experience in like as a mime or
he worked for this. I forgot the name of it in Canada. I think they went out of business recently. This very famous mime organization.
Huh.
It's in Canadian. I forgot the name of it.
Wow. So yeah, that looks great. So that's but 25 minutes. You say that'll be out in what, the next 3 months? Is that right?
Next month or two. I'm just trying to be honest with you. I'm trying to figure out how to release the film. You know, it's tricky. You know, you can just announce it on Instagram or Facebook, or you can try to get in the film festivals or something else. So over the next month, probably by the middle of February, I'll release it.
Yeah.
Aw.
What's with the youngster here? So he has an offspring?
No, everything in this place he creates. So he finds a baby mannequin and then dresses the baby mannequin, and so he pretends that he creates a life around these mannequins, but they're not his real children. He's created this world.
I have to say that puts it in a whole new perspective after seeing him actually moving, and it's even more unsettling. Wow. What can
who composed the music for it?
We had somebody in Johannesburg do it.
Okay.
Love it. Are those your rats?
Well, some of them are, and some of them I borrowed from a friend, and some of them were living in the place. So they were a mixture. And a lot of them escaped. It's an interesting thing with rats because my conclusion, and before during the time I did Roger the Rat, I also worked on another project that hasn't been published. It was a 5-year project on rats, and my conclusion after working with rats after 5 years, per brain size, they're the most intelligent species on the planet per brain size.
Very smart.
It's a lot. It's a lot smarter than a bird or a lot of other animals of that brain size. So it really isn't. It's super intelligent. Yeah.
Totally.
I've heard the same thing about pigs and monkeys.
But these got much larger brains. So this is a tiny brain.
Right. So if you actually had a human-sized rat, it would be a terrifying evil genius.
No, it would.
Yeah,
he would be much more intelligent. He would be much more intelligent, I would assume, than us walking around. Probably, who knows? Wow. But I would guess so.
Would you want to get into some of these other projects? Theater of Apparitions. I don't know much about it, but I mean, it looks very. I mean, it does look intriguing. Would you want to go over that as well briefly?
Yeah. I mean, look. Before that, I did a project called the Theater of Apparitions, and this was an 8-year project. And what I did is I tried to photograph the invisible and make it visible. I mean, subconsciously and maybe consciously, we all believe in spirits. In Africa, people really believe in spirits. They believe in ancestor spirits, and I guess in the United States, when you're younger, you believe in ghosts, but the key issue is you don't know what happens to you when you die. You don't know what happens to you when you die, and you're trying to figure this out your whole life. What's going to happen to me? And one of the ways to manifest what's going to happen to me is you become a spirit or a ghost or an apparition. So I made this project called Theater of Apparitions. It was published by Thames and Hudson 2-3 years ago. And are you going to show? Do you want to show the video?
I'd be glad.
Yeah, you can show. Yeah, I'll show the video.
Okay.
Because the book was about 80 photographs, and this was the video to the book.
I'm sorry, Ben.
Is he snoring?
Ben, come on, dude, please.
What?
I thought I heard you snoring. Okay. You're not, are you?
No, I was probably coughing.
Maybe you got COVID-19.
I don't have. I don't have
You
COVID,
better go get a test now. No, that's me lying there, by the way. But we have to continue. We have to continue with
Press
Teddy.
play, Jeremy.
Go.
Press play.
Is he
What's that?
dead?
Jeremy.
Jeremy died.
froze.
Did he
Oh
drop?
my god.
There we go.
He's
Okay.
dead.
Here he is.
Oh, come on. Wow. Whoa! Wow, that's awesome! That is awesome!
In the end, all that'll be left are bones, my photographs, and perhaps I'll be an apparition.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Wonderful
So-
animation.
I think I get it now. You're an agent of the Black Lodge, aren't you? No. That-
Oh, shut up, Burroughs.
No, well, we're all an agent of this. It's just most people deny it. We're all an agent of it.
It's true.
that
It's
that
not,
was,
but it's the thing is, it's not black isn't bad or dark isn't bad.
Yeah.
It's just part of things. So it's not. It's just a phony value system put on top of it. but it's not
So true.
good or bad. And you see, the thing is in nature. In nature, there's no good or bad. There's no moral, immoral. In everything else outside of human society, there's no good and evil. You see, it's just the way things are.
Well, I was going to say my cat would beg to differ, but my cat is probably part of human society.
No, you just make the cat part of human society. The cat, you don't know anything about the cat. The cat,
Well,
you know, the thing is you think it's using the same language system, but I mean, a dog, for example, thinks through its nose. You know, it's nose orientated.
well,
And
cats
I
can
mean,
barely even see.
but they hear, and their scent are very good,
Yeah,
and their
they
eyes are
smell.
good. So, and their eyes are good at night. So, you know, it's a different reality. So we like to think that the animal world is like our cat and dog, but there is an aspect of it. But it's a big world out there. I mean,
Well,
Mr. Virus out there, Miss Virus out there is part of the same thing too.
Somebody keeps dropping off.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I'm still here, far away. I'm like, I think about 10,000 miles away now. You know,
Yeah.
10,000 miles away,
Well,
and it's what time? And it's 6:30. It's what time is it here? It's 6:30 in the morning. The sun's up already. It's summertime here.
For
I'm
me,
just going to ask how the weather is.
For me, it's 11:30 p.m., but I still got a few hours to go if I'm to fulfill my promise.
Yeah. So the sun's decided that it's sick of the northern hemisphere and it's come down here now. It'll be leaving. It'll be leaving soon. It's tired of being down here too. So it'll be back up there again.
Someday,
we think. We hope.
Hopefully, God, I hope.
Just think if it didn't arrive, what that
Christ.
Problem would be.
I'd rather not. There's a Twilight Zone episode that's like that, if I recall, or maybe it's the opposite. It is. It's where the sun just won't go away. Oh my God, that is like one of the most terrifying.
Come up in the morning. It won't come up in the morning.
Thanks.
I think that Theater of Apparitions was.
Oh, it was beautiful.
That was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
especially the manic laughter at the end, that and the branching off into all these different forms. You know?
How many frames of, and like, do you take each cell individually as a photograph and then put it together? How do you approach animation like that in that style?
Well, see, each thing in there was a photo. Each form in there, each form, it came from a photograph. So there were like 70 photographs in the book, and then we animated the photographs to make them act in this way. So I can't remember the exact frames per second or whatever, but everything came from my photographs. It wasn't
That's so interesting.
didn't come from the film studio. It came from the photograph.
That's wonderful. Really interesting.
And the photographs were taken on glass windows, so it took a long time to come up with this style. But all the photographs in the book were drawings and paintings using different materials, paints, epoxies on window glass, and then these chemicals would react in a certain way and create the textures and the forms to the apparitions, which then I would try to manipulate in some way, and then I would just take a photograph of it with a black and white film camera. So these are all black and white film photographs taken with film. So it was an interesting project.
How hard is it to find people that you can rely on to help you build these sets and or do you take on every task yourself? Surely you must have some hands that do some legwork and assist.
Not much. I have in the apparitions. I've had one woman. Her name is Marguerite Rousseau. She's worked for me for 13 years now, and she was very, very helpful in creating the Theater of Apparitions, and as well as Roger the Rat. But other than her, I don't really work with anybody else. So there are a few helpers that I have from some of the people I've known since they've been children. and they help, move things around and put things up. But I don't have anybody other than Marguerite who participates in the creative process.
So you say that you're not quite sure where to sell Roger the Rat. Is that what you said earlier?
No, the film. I wasn't quite sure how to release the film. So, I'm just trying to better understand. The book. I have a lot of experience in releasing books. In all my previous films, I released them on YouTube. But this is a longer film than others, and I'm just trying to find a way of releasing the film, wherever it might be. So I'm living in South Africa. I have to, and most of the media that would be interested in a project like this is overseas, and so I can't travel right now because of the virus. And so I'm trying to slowly but surely getting to a point where I can figure out how best to release the film. And so I might end up just advertising, making comments on Instagram or Facebook, and I might be left with that to release the film, or might win an award or two at a film festival. But I'm just slowly but surely getting there.
Yeah, film festival definitely, but I don't know. Are you familiar with the Brothers Quay? Could they have some sort of distribution? Outfit to help you with this, maybe? Or
no, I don't know. If you have any suggestions, I would be very appreciative if you could just let me know, because it just assists with the whole process.
Well, there's a stop. There are these brothers called the Brothers Quay, and they deal in stop motion animation, a lot of doll like figures and whatnot. Not in your style, but it's more of a fantasy land approach that they take. But anyway, I feel like they're probably at a point where they probably have a distribution, outlet for themselves, or maybe they could, if you put this in front of them, maybe they could help you in some way. I don't know much about them. I don't know much about them, but that's the closest thing I can compare those two amazing videos to. Phoenix, Phoenix, did you catch either of those?
The film?
The
video?
Yeah.
I caught the end, but I didn't get to see it all.
Pretty incredible stuff. And
would it be possible to see it again, or would that be too redundant?
We'll just watch the replay when this finishes.
Okay.
How long's Ann been gone? Everything okay with her?
She just crashed a minute ago.
Okay.
Mr.
But I mean, I could probably look around and try to help, put some suggestions your way. I'm limited in my resources, of course, but I could offer suggestions with enough research, and I do wish you the best with this. What happens now? Are you still focused on Roger the Rat, or are you slowly transitioning into another project?
No, about 3 years ago, I started taking color photographs for the first time in my photographic career. So I've been working on a color photographs series, and I guess it's a very psychological series, and I guess it takes my images to partly another zone, because there's color involved instead of black and white. And also, I built a museum here in Johannesburg, an art center. I built a museum here, and I moved into the museum about 3-4 months ago. So I'm busy thinking about the program here and how I'll implement it. So that's also been quite a challenge and quite an interesting process to start. So I guess those are the two biggest projects: the color project of photographs, and getting the museum off the ground. Right now, one can't travel out of South Africa. Most countries don't allow people from here to travel to. They found another virus here, so they're scared that people from this part of the world will transmit another virus to another part of the world. So I'm haven't actually traveled for over a year. It's the longest, I think, at least in the last 50 years of of my life that I haven't gone from any place to any other place. So, you know, I have a number of museum shows that are been postponed and other shows that have been postponed. I'm hopeful by, say, the spring or early summer, I can travel again and you know, continue my work on the various shows that I've planned.
Yeah, I mean, you've certainly lived a full artistic life, and you've received the Lifetime Achievement Award, Best Music Video Awards. What is the Selma Blair Witch Project? That sounds like a band or a parody movie. What?
Yeah, well, there's Selma Blair. Actually, it's funny, you know, hadn't been in touch with her. I guess for about since 2005. I'll give you a funny story. The New York Times in 2005, I think it was 2005, asked me to do their fashion, their annual fashion shoot for their magazine. So I'd never done a fashion shoot in my entire life, and I did this fashion shoot with Selma Blair. I think she's quite a well-known movie star in the United States. Anyway, I won the art director award for that year, I think, for the best fashion shoot of the year in America. I'd never done one before. So I won this award and I got a big trophy and everything else. But I always tell people, which is the funny part of the story, nobody ever hired me again to do another fashion shoot. So you can understand why. So anyway, that's what I did, and it's interesting enough. She sent me a note the other day. I hadn't heard from her for about 10 years, but she sent me a note and said my vision was still there. Well, that was a good thing to hear. But yeah, so
as in she liked what you were doing now.
Yeah, right? Yeah, she liked what I was doing, and then I don't know if you know the music group called Antwerp, DIEANTW.
Yeah.
I basically started them, you know. So I just was finished a movie with them. I'm the director of their documentary, and I'm also the creative director of their feature film. So hopefully these two films will be coming out this year. Who knows? But hopefully people will be able to see them. We finished both the documentary and the feature film. So let's hope they can come out.
Did you direct their video Pitbull Terrier? Is that the group I'm thinking of?
Yeah, that's one of the films, and the film that I became the most famous for both of us was called "I Think You Freaky," and you know, I think this has 160 million views on YouTube. So I was involved in a lot of their music videos, and some of them I helped direct, and other ones they incorporated part of my aesthetic into their videos. And so it's been a very interesting collaboration over the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. Does anyone ever try to ruin the experience for you, discourage you? I mean, at this point, you probably are able to just brush it off, but I mean, have there ever been any really, really negative forces standing in your way that you had to fight to overcome?
Yeah, here in South Africa in '95, when I did a book called Plotterland, it was about the poor white community here, and the pictures were very powerful pictures. They were more than just documentary pictures, but they were too strong for a lot of the population here to handle. And so I got death threats, and I was arrested a number of times. And I always said in 1995 I had one friend in the whole country, and that was my dog called Leroy. So I had a very hard time here for many years, and I guess only recently become accepted as a part of the art community.
Arrested for what? What was it, an obscenity thing, or
no? Arrested for being a spy or somebody who's saying negative things about society. And
dissident.
So I was when I was in these places taking the picture, I got arrested, I think 13 times.
Oh,
this was during this apartheid period here, so it was quite a difficult period, and the government was quite insecure about itself, and the population was in a state of a breakdown. So anybody who's was suspicious or doing things suspicious in different places has ended up being in trouble.
They did a search of plateau land. There's one photo here I recognize that goes around the internet a lot.
Probably the twins.
Yeah,
the twins.
Yeah, the twins with the big ears.
Yeah, the twins. So that became a very famous picture. You know. It's called Dressy and Cassie twins. You know, they were. I don't know if
this right
sometimes,
here.
Sometimes the
No,
not that one. No, not that. Definitely not that one.
It's PLATTELAND.
Okay, gotcha.
There it is.
I've also seen this. Yeah.
It's not the one you're pointing. That's the brothers later on in life, but it's this picture here. Yeah.
Which one?
In the middle there. In the middle. No, there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That became the most famous picture from the book, and still is. You'd still find it on the internet in different ways in different places.
Okay. And who are they? What is their?
They're brothers. The brothers, twin brothers. The one with the dirty shirt on worked in the garden, and the one on the with the clean shirt worked inside. And they were came across them. I think it was in 1993 in the countryside, and took the picture, and it became an iconic photograph, and been remembered by millions actually.
That's really interesting.
For all the right and all the wrong reasons. You know, it stays in people's brains. You know, you don't know what pictures will stay in people's brains and what picture people just will forget about. But this picture has an uncanny ability to stay there and not go away. And so one has to just try to understand, or which you can't really fully understand. People say, "Oh, they're strange. I've never saw things like that before." I wouldn't want to come across them in a dark alleyway, but that's just talking about the tip of the iceberg. When you start going a little bit deeper, you begin to see your ancestor passed maybe 1 million, 2, 3, 4 million years ago there. So it's a reflection of yourself. It's a mirror into the deeper levels of the human being right there. Probably that might be the reason. It might be the reason. Who knows? You know, we're talking about the subconscious mind, which doesn't think in language, normal language. It has its own language, its own biology.
So that taught you the Jungian unconscious, right?
Yeah, look at this. It has the Jungian unconscious. It has a lot of important things to say, to think about. The other things that you might not be able to understand or come to terms with, but there is a lot of important concepts that he brought up. Yeah, though you would call these archetypes in Jungian theory. These two would be archetypes, and why they're archetypes. I mean, that's the hard part to understand. Jung couldn't get there. Nobody can get there. It's about human biology, human chemistry, human brain cell chemistry. So we don't know why. Why does the brain react that way? What's in it? What's in the cell structure that makes them remember things like that? That comes to recognize archetypes. We don't know how this works, and that probably never will, at least in my lifetime.
Yeah. So that's where the backlash came from. It was like, you're making South Africa look bad by
the same stuff.
These people.
Yeah. This has been going on in photography for 100 years now. But the real reason is the pictures are penetrating. They get below the surface. They stay below the surface, and people don't like that wherever you go. So people don't like upsetting their status quo, and there are a few people that do, but most people don't like their status quo upset. They want their lifestyle to be reinforced, and that's why they do what they do. And so when people like myself or whatever, get underneath their skin. They call it dark or disturbing, or they blame me for this or that. But underneath it, it's because they don't know, they haven't dealt with their own identity, I guess, come to terms with life in any real way. So that's, I guess that's the reality of the situation on the planet. Did you hear that? That's an important point to say there. You know, it's not about Trump. It's about what people's inability to come to terms with who they are, really who they are. They're scared to look in the mirror. You see, they just want a pat on the back.
Yeah, that's so true. That seems like it's becoming increasingly a problem, especially with a lot of mainstream art. It's just like people aren't seeking like anything that engages them on more than a surface level. They basically want a tranquilizer for like a couple hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's a problem everywhere. So you know, I'm not sure if the world's getting any better or worse. Who knows? It tends to go around in circles.
Yeah, that's really it.
So where did you say you were originally from?
I was born in New York, and I went to university in Berkeley, and then I've been living in South Africa since 1982. So I guess I've been here nearly 39 years here already. So I'm a mixture of a lot of different places, I guess. By the time I was 28, I had been in most places in the world by land, you know. So I've been in nearly every country in the world by land, you know. And now I fly around from place to place. But when I was younger, I hitchhiked from across Africa, across Asia, across South America for years and years and years. And so, you know, I have quite a good understanding of, I think, of planet Earth, and my profession for many years, I was a professional geologist. So I never wanted to be a commercial photographer. And when I was younger, there was no such thing as a artist photographer, and I never wanted to be a commercial photographer. So I earned a living being a geologist in Africa, you know, looking at rocks.
That's really cool.
Wow, so you've lived a very full life, and yeah, I wish I knew some place that would snatch up this film, because seeing it in live action movement is a lot different than seeing it, you know, pictures in this. It's way more unnerving, you know, and
definitely
the guy looks way more menacing, you know, than he comes across in stills.
You're 100% right. You're absolutely right. As I said in the movie, he's really not a nice guy at all. And at the end, you'll really be surprised what happens to him. You should see what happens to him in the end.
Well, I just wonder what would happen if another actual human being discovered him down there, or tried to sympathize or empathize with him enough to stay with him, and he would probably end up, you know, it would not turn out well for them despite their good intentions, right?
Yeah, that's probably what would happen. That's probably what would happen. But we shouldn't be too surprised.
So I watched the video that I missed before I came in, and I had a couple thoughts. I don't know if you would necessarily be influenced or interested in these writers, but I actually thought of Dadaism, specifically with thinking about the trauma of death, and at that time war, and also thinking of Anton and Artaud and the Theater of the Absurd.
Insanity.
Yeah.
Theater of the
So
Absurd.
was that at all in your mind, or were you kind of going in a different direction? It's just what it reminded me of.
No, this is a very good point. You know, I was sort of involved in intellectually in Dadaism, Surrealism, Theater of the Absurd in my early 20s. So, okay. You know, it stuck with me, and whether it was Artaud or it was UNESCO or Beckett, the Pirandello. You know, I was introduced to them in an early age, and I incorporated their concepts intellectually, emotionally in my understanding of things. I think by age 20, 21. So it did have an influence on me. It definitely had an influence on me, and you know, I guess I don't know whether I would have found that anyway, because you know, their conclusions probably come to a lot of people anyway, just by living life, if you're receptive to it.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't feel like you'd have to be influenced by them, but it's definitely what it reminded me of. And I think because it has this dichotomy, that specific video at least, has the dichotomy of like the absurdity of life, but with this like serious emotional feeling. And I like what you did with that, because I think it's unsettling, because you kind of feel like the actual images aren't they're definitely a huge part of the presentation, but that there is like this deeper layer of like this kind of mood. And that's kind of why I thought of the absurd specifically in theater, because like my understanding of like how theater can operate is thinking about how you can represent something, but that isn't always the main point. It might be sometimes to capture like this deeper element or feeling. And at least that was my impression of it, and I really like that, because I think that's hard to do.
No, I agree. You know, in a way, you've got to disguise your intention, because if you it's like putting a sugar on the pill.
Yeah.
And then the mind accept I mean, that's what, as I said in the beginning of the discussion, the people can accept Roger the Rat more readily because he's got the mask on. He's got the sugar on the pill, but underneath it, there's something else. So it's an important point that you're making. You know, so you got to get the virus inside. You have to find a way of getting the virus inside, and there's no formula. I'm not as smart as COVID-19. COVID-19 is a little smarter than me, and smarter than a lot of people. So, you know, have to know how to get inside and find a way of getting inside and then being able to transform the cells of the brain in a certain way that that whatever you did stays there. And as I said, no magic formula for doing that. No magic formula whatsoever. You either can do it or you can't do it, or it happens or it doesn't happen. And it's a big difference between so-called media happenings, where media decides that it's going to make something important, and whether the work actually has any merit to do that. That there's a huge gap there. So, you know, when we watch media, they decide, well, this is important, this is something you should remember, but it's on most occasions it's of no psychological consequence.
Yeah,
so we're stuck with that.
Yeah, that's why I was moved by that specific video, though, is because, I mean, if we're thinking about the absurd and kind of like trying to like pick apart this deeper feeling, I'm very interested by this idea that we often gloss over this in like mainstream media. And that's why I thought of like the idea of the theater of the absurd, because it's interesting to think about Antonin's writing, because it kind of disintegrated, but like it was because like I feel like in his writing, like he had confronted some of what you're talking about, like this encroaching death and fear and even madness. And, you know, thinking about the intensity of the final scene, where like it's almost like he like embodied or like had imagined all of these archetypes in his mind, or these images, and then death is the conclusion in that video. But I also felt like some of it was madness. It was like, I just can't like quite do this. And that would be my interpretation. But that's why it was moving to me, is because I think it's kind of like a foil for like what I do and like my thinking on art and with like writing and stuff, because I think I often want to like paint it more rosy than it actually is. And I think part of that is because it's uncomfortable to capture those deeper truths that, as you were saying earlier, people aren't comfortable with in many cases. And this idea of the media as being a place that presents a certain image that is kind of almost to placate, ironically, even though it's so disconcerting, is just really fascinating to me.
Yeah, the media will only go so far, you see, and then it scares people, and it doesn't want to do that, because the media, the only interest of the media is profit. You see, it's only there to promote itself, and so if it goes too far, then its viewers fall off the cliff, and so the media can only take it so far, and then it's got to stop.
Do you feel like this making art, because I wouldn't want to like label your art, but do you feel like it is cathartic in that way by capturing some of these deeper truths, like for you as an artist or even for people viewing it?
Yeah, I would look. It's cathartic for me, as you know. That's why I guess I do it, and I guess why a lot of people do art is it helps them to come to terms with themselves in various ways. But you know, one also has to understand that there's no end to the string. You see, you know, so it's cathartic, but you know, there's little, I guess, pulses of cathartism, but you know, we're on a long string, and we're not necessarily ever going to get to the end of it. So you know, you have to understand that it doesn't mean because you find some sort of little bit of truth that the light doesn't go out and it gets dark again, and you got to find it again. So this is the whole process.
A momentary respite, but
yeah,
you know, frustration will endure again eventually. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the comet in this. It's like a shooting star. That's basically what it is. If you see a shooting star in the middle of the dark night, and then there's like a semblance of truth, a semblance of light, and then it disappears again. But it's better to see it than not to see it.
Yeah, that's why I find that so fascinating, because I think the discomfort is hard to live with, as you know, we might
intuit. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The problem is there. You can't get rid of it, so it's there. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it's just whether you try to make something concrete and positive, and use your short life on the planet to try to probe it, or you just decide that you're going to eat another hamburger and try to run away from it, but it stays there. It doesn't matter. You just get indigestion. That's all. It stays there. You can't get rid of it. It's like an animal. An animal can't get rid of certain things. Also, an animal's always it's always in need of need of food, of shelter, of safety. An animal can't get rid of these instincts because it's the thing that keeps them on the planet. So it's there all the time. And if you watch an animal in the forest or in the bush here in South Africa, they're always looking. They're always either eating or looking around to make sure certain things don't eat them. Or they're looking for a mate. And there's just a few things that are propelling that animal day and night. And they can't get rid of these states. And if they did, they would die. They would just die. They would be killed or die.
Do you feel like that desire for comfort is like hardwired into us by culture or even biologically? Because like I wonder, because like for me, like I would want to honor the darkness, honor the discomfort, the things that are difficult, but I think it's hard to do in a society that feels complacent in a lot of ways and like isn't interested. And I wonder, like, am I like fundamentally wired differently, or is it like I just respond differently to the culture? Because I think the weird thing for me is I feel like it's just hard to see a counterpoint where like people are willing to see that discomfort. It's just my thought.
I think you're fighting the ocean. That's okay. My feeling. I'm 70 years old now. I was making those comments when I'm not sure. You could be my age, older, or younger. I don't know, but. You know, I remember thinking this in my teenage days and wondering what it was all about. And I guess now I just say, well, I'm just fighting an ocean out there. I think it's an interesting issue because, you know, I live in Africa, and the issues that you're bringing up are not part of the vocabulary here. So they're not part of a vocabulary. So if they're not part of a vocabulary, how do things improve on, if they can improve on the planet? So and even if they are part of a vocabulary, will they have any consequence anyway? So I don't know. You have to. I think you just have to come terms of these things in your own way and deal with them in your own way and come and do what you have to do. And I think otherwise you might just give up or become extremely frustrated. I always say, just remember when your heart beats, seven or eight other billion human hearts beat at the same time. It's a lot of people. And most people aren't thinking the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
And never will.
Yeah.
And never will.
Man.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think it is a difficult thing for sure. And I think that's why I was definitely moved by that video because, like, I mean, in the space of like 5 minutes, it captured like these huge existential questions. And I guess what I would say is like I think that it's great that like you've rendered that in some way, because like I think what was very powerful about it was the imagery for sure, the way that it captures some of these things, but the way that you're able to like actually bring that to life. Yeah, that's really cool.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. You know, guys, I know I said 10 hours, but I think I am starting to lose steam.
You have to go to bed. Please. It's really been a really great pleasure speaking to everybody, and it's 11 past 12 at night, so you have to go to sleep. You got to get some sleep. So I see there's a cat. I just took a picture of a cat like that about a week ago. So he has a cousin here. It's a twin cousin. But it's really been a great pleasure. I don't want to keep you up, and thank you very, very much for your time, and it really was an interesting conversation, and appreciate your being part of the program.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Roger.
And awesome films, and I will do my best to try to offer suggestions about possible distributions.
Be really appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, for that film, I'll look around. But thank you very much, sir, and best of luck in your continued artistic journey. I really, really, sincerely mean that.
No, thank you very much, and it really is a great pleasure speaking to you. And I wish everybody well and a happy and healthy New Year. And hopefully someday, sometime, someplace we'll be able to meet and take care of yourselves.
That'll be nice. You too, Roger. Take care.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Bye-bye. 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 Bye. Bye. Bye.
Well, guys, yeah, like I said, I thought I could pull off the 10-hour thing, but I'm starting to feel the lull. My reaction time is slowing, and I'm not really looking to pop an Adderall and get that started again. So I think I'm going to go to bed. But,
hell, I was loaded for bear, Jeremy. You're just.
I know you need your sleep too.
Yes, I do.
Nothing to worry about too.